also, a lot of the work that I know folks in this room do is attempt to reduce the amount of resilience our community members need to have. A global pandemic, a global pandemic that left a lot of scars, high inflation, cost of living, the backlash that we are seeing on reproductive rights and the rights of women, trans, and non-binary members of our community, the racism we've seen grow in our politics and politics across the border. And so just felt the need to recognize the time that we're in the day. And every day, but especially today, survivors of gender-based violence are, and my trans and non-binary friends and family, newcomers and immigrants, and women, racialized neighbors, all of us who want and need to be able to make choices about our bodies and our lives. I see you and I feel you, and I think the timing of this conversation is important. I also had a conversation with someone today where I shared these feelings, and they also reminded me that we live in a pretty special, wonderful place with good community, with good community advocates and neighbors, and that we should not lose that where we are, and so to ground ourselves. And the other thing they said in that recognition was like, roll up your sleeves here locally with your community and do the work. So maybe just start us with holding that space and the call to connection and the work. And with that, just so glad to be in your company. And when Where to Start asked me, when Zoe reached out and asked me to do this back in early September, I said I have no idea what my life looks like in November, but anything from Where to Start. And then to see the list of speakers that you're going to get to hear from tonight. These are women who I have had the chance to work with, women I've admired, people that I've had the chance to watch their work and leadership close up and afar, and you are absolutely in for a treat to hear from them. So know that if today you needed a boost on that, you're going to get it from the folks that you're going to hear from tonight. With that introduction to this evening, I'm going to share a little bit about confidence and resilience for myself. And I'm going to start that by saying I am an elected public official and absolutely do not feel like an authority on these topics. And I think starting these things humbly is an important piece because all of us feel some level of confidence, resilience, and self-doubt around all of that. And while you may have seen my face on signs for 4 weeks, I'm no exception. During the last week of the campaign, my 8-year-old said to me, "Mom, I'm kind of sick of your face." Oh man, me too, buddy. Me too. I have, as I said, I've been the Minister of State for Childcare. I served as the Parliamentary Secretary for Gender Equity, and I'm the Minister for Children and Family Development. And all of these roles, but especially my most recent, the honor and responsibility of a lifetime. And I'm in a business known for its egos, known for egos and confidence. And this has always been puzzling to me because I have never been more humbled in my entire life. For 4 weeks, but for the many months before that, a lot of my job was to go door knocking. What that looks like is you knock on doors and you say, "Hey neighbor, what do you think about me personally and professionally? Is there anything about me personally or professionally or the world that you would like to blame me for, that you would like to tell me to my face right now?" There is no guidebook, there is no nobody tells you how to do this work. They just simply do not. And when you screw it up, you sometimes do it on TV. I'll get into a lesson I learned on that in a second. But I also want to say that I am also a mom. I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. My journey in politics included finding a brain tumor in my son 3 months after I was elected, and dealing with a parent's mental health and addiction crisis over this term, and needing to continue to show up because my neighbors asked me to, and they voted for me to do this work. And there isn't another option. So humbling personally, but also humbling as a member of community. This is a team sport, and I had a role to play. I'm also a bit of a hot mess. I likely don't know where one of my phones is, where my wallet is. If there's ever an apocalypse and you need to find like sustenance, you can find my car. It will be unlocked. The keys will be and there will be goldfish crackers. All of these things can coexist. Sometimes folks ask me how I do it. Part of the answer is dry shampoo and co-sleeping. And that's where I see my kids. Like, we can lean into these spaces. So I just wanted to share a couple of things I've learned along the way and decided to lean into. And I'm going to start with clothes. Because where to start is hosting. We've got a fabulous store owner here who, Lorna, who's going to do one of the breakouts. It matters that you feel good and comfortable in your clothes. My lessons, secondhand, because the planet and your wallet thanks you. As cute as possible while feeling like you're wearing pajamas. And the second is non-negotiable. I can go to sleep in it. I cannot be resilient and confident if I don't feel comfortable. Part of this is changing what the job looks like, while also looking enough like the job that you can keep doing it. Though I'm frequently asked if I'm staff for a minister. That used to bother me a lot, be hard on the confidence. Now it is this beautiful moment for power where you can correct somebody and they feel that's with that, I am thrilled to introduce a number of folks that you're going to hear from tonight to speak about navigating life with resilience and confidence. And I'm going to welcome to the stage a friend of mine, someone I'm very, very grateful to have worked with both before I was elected and since. Samantha Lupi is the Executive Director of the Victoria Sexual Assault Center. We've been around actually for 42 years in our community here. Back in the 80s, started in a smoky basement with I think 1 or 2 staff and a crisis line, and essentially waited for survivors to give us a call, and if they needed help, take them to the hospital to get checked out. And so they didn't have to go by themselves for the extra confidence there in that room. In the 90s, we expanded to some education, focused a lot on youth, going into schools, talking about things like consent and what does violence look like and show up for them. Now, we see about 1,000 survivors come to our door every year and have half a dozen programs to support them directly and folks in our community through education, prevention, which we talked about before. And I'm very happy to say all free of charge and as low barrier as we can. So our mission at VSAC is to end sexualized violence. A lofty one, I know. Our mission includes ending it through healing, education, and prevention. And I'd like to break those down a little bit for you. So how we focus on healing is often in a number of ways, and one of the most important parts about it really is trying to connect with people as quickly as possible when they reach out for support. So we see folks that have experienced violence more recently, or even generally, like decades ago, when they were younger. It's not necessarily about when it happened, but when they're ready to reach out for that support, we can be there to respond. We're really lucky that we've set up our services so there are very, very little wait for folks to get connected to a number of our services. We're talking people give us a call and we're usually getting them connected to speak to somebody within a couple of days. And that's really a big focus for us as an organization because we know the impact it can have if when someone reaches out, someone builds up that confidence to say, I'm ready to talk about what's going on for me, if we can be there in a trauma-informed, compassionate way in that moment, can have a huge impact on the healing journey long term. Some of the things that we do is free counseling, one-on-one or in groups. We can do it in person or on the phone. The pandemic really showed us we can do it on the phone or we can do it over Zoom, and as a way to try and be as accessible as possible so that, like I said, those barriers are low. It's hard enough for people to reach out sometimes. We don't want there to be anything else in the way when they finally do. We have a program as well called Victim Services. And really what it is it supports folks in navigating the criminal legal justice system. It can be quite complicated and the language can not be easy sometimes for folks. So someone to kind of stand with them and say, if you choose this path, which we do not require you to, but if you choose it, here's how we can help walk with you. We also have a really lovely situation that was started almost 10 years ago now, which is our integrated sexual health clinic, sexual assault clinic. Essentially on site, we have an alternative space for folks so they don't have to go to the hospital. So if they don't want to sit in an emergency room, they
In terms of healing, and when I was thinking about, when Zoe talked to me about this event tonight, and thinking about resilience, I guess overarchingly, what we're trying to do is really like uplift and bolster the resilience that survivors really do bring with them when they reach out for support. And a way I think about this is, the healing path. So imagine you're on a long hike, which there's lots of them around Victoria, you can choose to do if you like. The survivor is walking that path. They're on their own, under their own weight, with their own skills, their own body. Essentially what we're trying to do is walk that path with you. So imagine you're on your hike, but there's someone with you. Maybe they pass you a protein bar when you're getting a little hungry. Maybe they recommend you stop, sit down, take a little break, have a sip of water as you're going forward. Maybe you hit a signpost that you can't really read and don't know which direction to go. For us, when it comes to healing, we think about, that protein bar is us saying, do you want to come to our skills group and maybe talk a bit about skills around communications or boundaries and what that can look like for you. When we're asking them to maybe sit down, have a sip of water, maybe that's in a session and you feel and you can see that trauma start to take over. Maybe we do a little grounding. Maybe we bring you back to this place and talk about how that healing can show up in your body, how to reinforce that, how to help it move you forward on that path so you don't turn back or grab onto the tree and just stay there. And we get to that signpost, maybe it's one of our victim support workers that says, oh, this is how you read this language of the courts or the crown or the lawyers or whoever. Maybe you want this path, maybe you want this one. It's your choice. So there's a confidence and an informed consent when people are making those decisions. In terms of the education part of how we're trying to end sexualized violence, it's interesting, it's not just about us providing education out in the community. It's also about us as an organization, I think myself definitely, and a lot of my team, learning, being educated by others about how to do our job in good ways. Some of the ways in which we're educating our organization and how we provide service is through a connection with our Kwananito Isawit, or Indigenous Response Network. It's a collection of community elders, Indigenous youth, and community partners that, among lots of other things that they do with our center, is helping us to understand what decolonial work really looks like in a context of a sexual assault center, what local protocols we should be following. We've been around for 42 years. We definitely have some roots in a colonial system. So how can we learn from others about unpacking that moving forward in a good way? We also learn a lot from our community partners, and my community outreach coordinator, Eliza, is with me here today. And does a great deal of relationship building with other organizations like Where to Start and many others. And what we're doing is learning from each other, not only to provide holistic support for survivors and community, but also so that we kind of create a web or a network of sharing knowledge or sharing experiences. So we're strengthened in our work with individuals, with communities, but also overarchingly. Maybe that's policy work, maybe that's structural changes too. We're not doing it alone. In terms of some of the education we provide, we definitely have lots of resources on our website and our social media. We do skills groups, like I said, for survivors, or also their supporters. So if it's a partner, if it's a parent, or someone who wants to know how to best support the survivor, build that confidence in having those conversations with them, we can support with that as well. Again, all free of charge. We do workshops out in the community with youth, with adults, around things like consent, youth dating violence, and receiving disclosures. The other part of education I wanted to highlight is our volunteers. And I think kind of like where to start, volunteers are a huge element of what we do as an organization. Not only do they help us provide our services, and without them, I don't know if we could really do it, but also what we try and do is empower them with skills and confidence around communication, active listening, trauma-informed practice. And then they go out into the world and become police officers or doctors or nurses or teachers or judges, actually more recently, and then can kind of spread that confidence and that learning throughout the world in a different way. And to wrap things up in terms of prevention, and this is, I think, really the key for how we're going to end sexualized violence. And something that our Indigenous Response Network highlighted was the importance of it queer, trans, and gender diverse folks, but by men and boys as well. So we really need to be in this together to end it. Project Respect is a prevention education that we do in schools with youth, but also with adults that work with youth. Because what we found through some research is that the sort of like, you know, a person can come in, give a presentation to youth, they don't know who they are. You talk to a teacher, you talk to an advisor, you talk to someone they know and trust and love, they're going to be able to go and get that support from them in a much more impactful way. We have a youth leadership team, a Shifting Culture project, where we're supporting racialized youth specifically, and they'll create curriculum to deliver to youth and to deliver to adults that work with youth, but also we're developing their leadership skills, their confidence. And as a kid who was one of the, you know, teen advisory board or youth group or anything I could get my hands on, I know personally what an impact that can make. So being able to support that for the next generation is a way that we're really looking at a world down the line. I see it there, where sexualized violence is good. The one thing I have learned is that it is a collective goal. So I wanted to say thank you folks so much for having me tonight, and thank you all so much for the work that I know you do in our community.
Thank you, Sam. The metaphor of supporting someone on a hike, the protein bar and the water and the sky and the breeze is so powerful, and I think something to take away for how we support and lift up the resilience of people in our lives, whatever it is they're navigating. Just as a pitch, I was on the sexual assault response team and was one of the most impactful volunteer experiences of my life, the most direct experience with survivors, navigating systems. So much of what I learned there on that team, in the hospital or at the police station in the middle of the night or on a Saturday afternoon, is what drove me to politics. If you're looking for a way to connect with your community and directly support people, I can't say enough about the opportunities with USAC. Next, I'd like to invite Dana to come up and give her reflections.
Told me years ago that I'd be standing here, you guys, with anything positive to say about this world, I would have told you that it's not possible. It is not possible. I definitely had to be resilient in my life, and I've been quite a survivor. I'm going to cry, and that's okay. I'm 50 years old. I was born in 1973 to my mother and father sharing just two beds. My mother was a teacher. My father was a computer consultant. I have two brothers, Corey and Damon, older and younger, and I have a beautiful son that is 29 years old. My past was not very fun. When I was a child, I didn't feel like I ever fit in. I didn't feel comfortable ever. I always felt off. When I was 12, I was raped at a Halloween party, so this is an anniversary that I've come by now and actually am doing very well with. So I understand all that. At that time in life, there was not the help that we have now from places like Sexual Assault Center. It was just growing. I did reach out for help, and to reach out for help to your school counselor and not get it was rough. To live with something that felt like a dirty secret. I also had to endure 23 operations throughout my life, and that has led to a lot of drug and alcohol use over many years to self-medicate what I was trying to deal with, which was severe depression and an illness that was mysterious to me. I did not know what I was dealing with yet. I also, unfortunately, was subjected to human trafficking and survived and made it out. So that was pretty incredible. So I really understand what resilience is. I have had attempts at my own life, and I'm very glad that today that didn't happen, because I feel like quite a different person. Let's get positive now, eh? After all that, eh? And the audience and Ashley, who were part of the program, So I stayed around with this program with Ashley here and Leanne, who brought me into their loving arms, and People in Progress begun. And one day turned into 2 to 3 to 4, and before you knew it, I was able to write resumes. I was able to start to build some confidence. I was getting some pay. So what I hope our government will look at eventually is starting to raise the number of the amount of money that we get on disability, because I know that we cannot eat as well as pay our bills. It's kind of hard. A lot of us are eating 1 meal a day to try to just survive, and it's not enough. But programs like this gave me the power to think, okay, I'm proud of myself. It's like having a job. So they walked me through horrible days where I was having such a hard time, but they got me through. And then they introduced me to where to start. And oh my God, I've never been treated like a queen like that before. I walked into an office, I had no idea what I was going to. I walked in, these ladies were coming in with gorgeous outfits, including every single thing I am wearing tonight. When I came in, they were just giving me tons of glorious outfits that were amazing. That is really important for women, because we are often very hard on ourselves and judge ourselves very hardly. I know I've been very harsh on myself. So to be able to have some nice clothes, to be able to have a bit of pay in your pocket, and to learn things like writing a resume, that terrified me. And it doesn't terrify me anymore. I got my job here as at the Cook Street Village Activity Center. This was my practicum. I was able to work here for 2 years very successfully, and created programs like our programs with the seniors, where we had meals to go every single week, shepherd's pie, sausages, all sorts of bangers and mash. We had in this very room here over 150 people for our African safari event. My aunt was actually here from Uganda. She's a missionary, so she was even here for that. I was able to also have our beautiful Christmas dinners for our seniors here. I was baking and cooking. I was the kitchen coordinator here at this center for 2 years. Struggled still, and still interestingly, and we'll wrap this up in a bow for you in a beautiful way. Like I said, when I was younger and all my whole life, thought, something's wrong with me, I don't know what's going on. I was connected with somebody through the People in Progress that was able to finally diagnose me. I have ADHD, and I never knew. And I've had to survive my whole life. And that is exactly what I had. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and it was a misdiagnosis, which happens to women all the time. And it's something that I really want to make everybody aware of. It's not to be embarrassed about. It's amazing. I am now properly medicated. I feel like a new person, and I have hope. I'm not living for my son anymore. I'm living for myself. Before I was laid off here, I reached out for more help. People in Progress. I'm working at Bosley's Pet Store on Yates. You can come visit me anytime with your pets. I love it. I get to work with animals. I have hope in my life. I dream of actually meeting a partner one day. And I just think there's so many things. I have to say there's not enough time, and I just want to thank you all for all of your help.
That impact of showing up for each other and the way that ripples out, we should hold that close. Thank you for sharing. I am now honored to introduce Tracy Drake, who is CEO of the Royal BC Museum.
And it has and it continues to challenge my confidence in ways that I didn't actually know were possible. What I do know though is that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be at this time in my life, and I am really confident that I can contribute towards positive change. And what I'd like to share with you is how I know that. What I really want to share is my checklist. It's a small one, it's 3 items. This is how I live my life, this is how I navigate my work. And it's 3 words: connection, courage, grace. As I said, I lost my mother early in my adult life, but she taught me these lessons, you know, and I was honestly this tall, I think, when I was 7, but at least when I was 13, and she would say, stand up, stand tall, be proud of who you are, navigate the world, make a difference. And so naturally, those 3 words really became my North Star for how I navigate my life, but also the confidence and strength that I bring to my work. And I have to say that these are non-negotiable for me. They are separate: connection, courage, grace, but they also are intrinsically linked in how I live my life. Number 1 is connection. So what I've learned, and gratefully continue to learn, because as Grace said very clearly, let's continue to on that path of learning, is how much strength there is in connection. Some people say community. I love the word connection. It must always be a we. We cannot navigate this world or this life as a me. It's just too much for any one of us. So when we work together and we're sharing our thoughts and our ideas, our resources, our talents, when we support and we guide one another, when we lean into others and we invite others to lean on us, something really magical happens. We, and me in this case, we are at our strongest. We are strongest when we are connected. Empowerment, and I think of empowerment in terms of confidence, it comes from these connections, from one another and also within community. We've heard that tonight already. I do believe that when we come together and we uplift each other, showing that resilience is a journey best traveled together. Courage. So when I think about courage, such an interesting word, but I think about sort of that mental and that moral strength, right? Outside of my comfort zone, not feeling quite myself, fear, difficulty, anxiety, all of those things. Courage shows up differently for each of us, and for me it also depends on the situation. So some things scare me, other things don't. Some things I really need to muster all of my courage. A big part of my job is speaking to diverse groups, advocating for change for the museum and for our communities, and presenting in rooms on very difficult topics, often where the crowd is divided, vocal, passionate. It's scary and it's uncomfortable, and yet it provides opportunity, and that's when I dig deep from a courageous perspective. For me, courage sort of comes and goes, sometimes on a minute, sometimes on the hour. But I did want to share that for me, the consistency comes from giving myself permission. That's the important piece, giving myself permission to lean into uncomfortable conversations and knowing they might not end well. They might not. But they might end brilliantly, and you never know unless you muster up that courage and you lean into it. I often, and I mean often, will tell myself as I'm in events or I'm in a moment, one moment does not define me. It does not define me. In fact, it may make an issue better. It may change the world. My courage may benefit another person or a group, and it may benefit me, and it may not. And that's where grace comes in. And I mean grace, my grace, not So confidence for me is also understanding that everything is not always perfect. And if you know me, you know that I'm a typical type A personality, so that really bugs me. And yet, because life is so hard and we lean into it, we understand that how we take care of ourselves in these moments truly does define us. And what I say to you is, give yourself grace. I talk to know that it's okay to disagree on an issue and hold your ground. Need a moment to cry? Do it. Scream, take a breath, reflect, whatever it is that you need. And also, learn to give yourself grace to say no and not feel guilty about saying no. That was a big one for me, a really big one. I also think too that we all sometimes need a bit of a break. So I say, you know, give yourself grace to do that. It's not always a vacation in the tropics or a long weekend away. For me, often, it's a quick walk around the block as I'm in between meetings. It is talking to someone that I connect with just to share and to gain perspective. Sometimes it's a glass of wine, not gonna lie. But the lesson here is never apologize. Never apologize for needing the space and never apologize for taking the space. It is your space to take. So connection, courage, grace. I can tell you with honesty, these are three constants in how I navigate my life, how I show up for myself and in my work. And you know, I seek it. I seek it daily from my connections in my work and with myself. I just want to leave you with this. Resilience is often thought of as being an individual trait. I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree. To my mind, I believe that it is born from grace. I believe that it grows with courage. And I believe that it thrives in connection with others. So, first of all, my absolute gratitude to Where to Start. I was so thrilled that you asked me to come and be part of this evening. I'm looking forward to the breakouts. May I just say that for me, one of the important parts of tonight is creating space. It is that critical space, that important space, and opportunities and organizations like Where to Start, where you know self-identified women can come together and have these vulnerable conversations and learn and grow together. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to make this connection with you. Thank you.
Speakers are amazing. I was not asked to do this, but I find myself wanting to reflect and having reflections on what we've heard tonight. So if you'll indulge me the 1 minute. Tracy's confidence and grace is my radical commitment to learning. It is connection and courage so key, and I have seen in many of you in this room that I've had a chance to work with. It'd be weird if grace was on my checklist. So radical commitment to learning, because the courage, when you approach with courage, sometimes things don't go well, or if you do something bold, sometimes it pans out brilliantly, and sometimes it doesn't. And so for me, that the grace side of that, the flip side of that, is the radical commitment to learning of like, oh, that was interesting. I have learned something from that. And the other thing I heard Tracy say about confidence wasn't about like inherent pieces of yourself or who you are or how you measure up. It was about in the how you do the things and what you show up and how you do the work and the values and integrity that you take. And I think that activating confidence in how you do the work is such a beautiful way to put that. So just to share, those are some of the things that landed with me. Our next speaker is actually somebody you've already heard about tonight, but you didn't know it. Ashley McDonald is with COFAR administration. Am I saying that right?
You are.
I am a big fan of Ashley. Like Sam, like Tracy, I've had a chance to watch and see and learn from her work. So please welcome Ashley.
I heard his name, I felt something uneasy, a quiet warning in my gut. He came into my office, and we began discussing his resume and the updates it needed as he had just finished school. What did you study? I asked. Hairdressing, he replied. I said, oh, interesting, trying to keep the conversation light. What made you choose that field? I figured it would be a good way to meet women. All right, I thought. What kind of salon are you hoping to work in? It doesn't matter, but it has to be owned by a man. I blinked. Why is that? I don't work for women, he flatly replied. I sat there, a mix of shock and anger pulsing through me, with a dash of disgust, just for good measure. He noticed my reaction. You're one of those feminists. Just get back to my edits, he said dismissively. He said the word feminist, how I say the words filth, feeble, or fascist. I was completely taken aback. I think I still am. But my silence wasn't because I was speechless. Instead, my silence was rooted in something deeper. It was rooted in fear. Fear of escalation, fear of a confrontation in a confined space. So I stood there in silence. After he left, I messaged him to say I wouldn't be able to assist him further. And I really thought that was the end of it. But my silence was so loud, ringing in my ears, that it became deafening. And it lingered long after he left, echoing within me. Resilience is often silent. Those life-altering moments we're forced to draw on our deepest reserves of strength, they are seldom loud. Our deepest struggles rarely have an audience, never mind a soundtrack. No bugles cry to mark our quiet battles. But there's a saying, until the lion tells its story, the hunter will be the hero. I'm here to share my journey of resilience and reflect on the seemingly endless well we as women are expected to draw from each day. This well is often revered, as though resilience is some kind of superpower bestowed upon us. But truthfully, I dream of a world where I might never be called resilient again. I am exhausted by strength. I crave support, softness, and ease. I long to be among kindred spirits instead of being commended for how well I absorb life's hits or for how many. Resilience is seen as a badge of honor. But what if it didn't need to be? What if we were encouraged to live fully, unguarded, and not constantly expected to withstand whatever life or society throws our way? We all have mileposts that shape our lives. Moments so significant they leave an indelible mark on our personal timelines. These are the events that would be written in bold ink in the story of our lives, shaping us in ways that are both visible and buried deep within. We don't just remember the events. We remember the versions of ourselves that existed in the before and in the after. In the before, we were lighter, perhaps less guarded. And in the after, we are altered and perhaps more aware. Everyone here has a me before version and a me after version, each separated by those defining markers where our lives split into two parts. Resilience often becomes a necessity after these defining moments. And while we do carry new strengths, we also bear new vulnerabilities. These totems become internal compasses, guiding us and reminding us of what we've endured and how we've adapted. And yet, I am tired of being resilient. Joyful or painful, these milestones stay with us, layered within the fabric of who we are. And as life moves forward, more of these markers will come, each rooting itself and reshaping us over and over. I am weary of society's expectation that I always be strong, that I endlessly tap into this well. Sometimes I feel it every day, every hour, or every minute. resilience weren't such an essential expectation. This need for constant resilience comes from the systemic barriers embedded in nearly every facet of our lives. In our careers, our relationships, societal norms, safety, and even our self-image. Imagine a world where equality was so deeply ingrained that women weren't expected to overcome or prove themselves over and over again. Imagine a world where women could walk to their cars after dark with relaxed hands, without gripping keys like makeshift weapons, and without constantly looking over their shoulders. Imagine a world where everyone could just be, where men and women alike are supported, and where the load is balanced. Where resilience isn't something we're forced to tap into just to feel safe, heard, and seen. If women didn't need to be perpetually resilient, the burden of carrying society's emotional labor might be shared more evenly. In that world, resilience wouldn't be a necessity. Instead, it would be a choice. A resource saved for life's true challenges, rather than a response to daily obstacles. We could move freely without needing to overcome. We just simply live. I think about that client a lot. After that experience with him, I knew that I needed to do something. So I got a tattoo. And it's right here. And it says talk back. With a period. Because it's a full sentence, it's a complete action, and it is a command to myself. A reminder that resilience doesn't have to be quiet. Instead, resilience can roar. And sometimes it must. We must. Those big life-altering moments where we draw on our strength, they are rarely accompanied by applause. The depth of our struggle is usually unseen, quiet, and without witness. But there's power in making resilience loud. In a world where resilience is a choice, a collective force rather than an isolated survival tool, we could demand more than just the ability to bear it all. Instead of proving how well we handle the hits, we could be free to live without needing to brace ourselves for them. Resilience should be loud. Resilience should have a voice. We owe it to ourselves and to each other to continue telling our stories. Thank you.
That was beautiful. The part that Ashley didn't weave through there is she's not just offering us the opportunity to imagine that world. That is the work that this woman does in our communities. When I said you'd already heard about Ashley, that's because Dana shared the role of Ashley in her story. And as you were offering the chance to imagine that world, I heard Dana's story about the opportunities for resilience and for care. So that is the world you're building. Also love your tattoo. Anyone else had that reaction? You need to do something, you got a tattoo?
tapping my shoulder when I made jokes, or even tapping my knee during a meeting in front of colleagues. I started going behind the bar anytime he would enter the room, just to have a physical barrier between us. Once he sat in front of the bar during my entire shift, talking about his dating life while he was drinking. This wasn't my friend, this was my employer, and someone who was holding a promotion over me. These actions felt small at first. I didn't think he had bad intentions, or even full awareness. My instinctive responses were often flight, sometimes freeze, or even fawn, which made me feel sick, but I realized was a normal and protective reaction of my body to just laugh it off and pretend everything was fine. But these behaviors started to become normalized, and it was really bothering me. I had overcome so much in my life, and I was a manager of this space. I was generally a confident leader, and this situation made me feel small and trapped. I saw him doing this with other women I worked with. It was inappropriate, and it needed to stop. But culture in bars and nightlife, boundaries can become blurry, and it can be hard to speak up. Not knowing how to address it directly, I delegated. I reached out to Stacy, the education director from Good Night Out, who I barely knew at the time. I had been to one of her workshops on ethical consent. I told her what was happening, and she made space for a call. So I sat on those back steps of the venue and shared my experience with Stacy over the phone. She ended up creating a custom workshop on power dynamics and planned it around my employer's availability. None of the content was identifiable to me. It spoke of dynamics between staff, but also patrons, promoters, performers. It was relevant enough that I got to watch my employer sweat. And it worked. After that workshop, he stopped trying to get me hugs. And it did much more than that. It was the starting point in shifting the whole workplace culture. After that experience, I realized that many of us feel unsure or uncomfortable when we sense or see boundaries being crossed. We often notice something is off, but we don't know how to respond. And we hesitate for so many reasons. Worrying will make things worse, not seeing the behavior as a problem, thinking someone else will step in, feeling awkward, or dealing with our own trauma responses. But I've learned there are many ways to intervene, and they can be simpler and more accessible than we think. Following the Power Dynamics workshop, I did a deep dive into bystander intervention, which provided a lot of validation, perspective, and tools. And I would like to do a quick review of the 6 Ds of bystander intervention, if that sounds good to everyone. So, number 1 is detect. So noticing something feels off. So this can be tuning into your own body and honoring your needs. It could be noticing discomfort in others. So seeing closed off body language, seeing someone scanning for an exit. Simply paying attention lays the groundwork for further action. Number 2 is direct. So sometimes being straightforward is necessary. Setting this boundary with my boss at the bar could have looked like, thanks for sharing about your night, but I have a lot of work to do right now. I'm going to shift you to the end of the bar. You can kind of diffuse things by using I statements. I have a lot of work to do versus So use your voice to normalize the conversation about consent and boundaries. So practicing these methods is like building a muscle. The first few times or several times, it's going to feel awkward or uncomfortable. You may wonder what you could have done differently, but the important thing is that you did something. And each step builds confidence. So inspired by these workshops on power dynamics and bystander intervention, and getting to practice these skills nightly at the bar, I became passionate about protected spaces and felt more equipped to make bigger change. I increased staff training, created a code of conduct, put up visible posters with resources, created safety business cards, added more non-alcoholic options, added lighting to dark corners, offered free self-serve harm reduction supplies, so safe sex supplies, earplugs, phone charging station, anything that could be helpful to a patron on a night out. I used every resource at my disposal. My partnership with Good Night Out grew as I coordinated sponsorship and helped put on a series of free public workshops in my venue. Eventually joining as a volunteer doing event Safer Spaces support, this work became a calling, creating protected spaces for people to express themselves and be cared for. As I became more involved in event harm reduction, I noticed a gap. We could support safer spaces inside, but when bars and venues closed, I would regularly leave work at 2 in the morning and see the streets flooded with people. Some of whom were intoxicated, separated from their friends, struggling to get home safe. Recognizing this need, Good Night Out launched a street team in Vancouver on Granville Street and secured funding from Women and Gender Equality Canada to start one in Victoria, and I was hired to run it. This felt incredibly meaningful to use the skills I had spent years developing and reciprocate the support I had needed. So 5 years later from that phone call, I'm working for Good Night Out as an employee, coordinating an outreach pilot. Using my experience, perspective, and relationships in nightlife to plan routes, dates, times for the street team, hiring and training staff, packing team backpacks with supplies, which are all over my living room. The street team I manage consists of a team of 2 out, wearing these bright pink shirts. We act as visible and approachable allies. Our team has intersecting identities and a variety of lived experience, education, or work experience. We intervene on signs of distress or harassment, providing peer support and that bystander intervention I talked so much about. We roam the downtown core every Friday and Saturday night from 11:30 to 3 a.m. We help people find their friends or be a friend if they're not having a good night. We charge people's phones, flag taxis, give out water and sick bags. A local comedian referred to us as a mobile women's washroom. Since launching the street team in June, we have supported over 600 individuals.
Wow.
This includes critical incidents, but also just connecting with people. People are curious about our matching pink uniforms. Some think we're part of a pub
now just thrilled to introduce Laura, who is our final speaker tonight.
Interrogation lights up here. I need to set a timer, and if someone could also keep an eye on the time. I could talk for 72 hours, but I've prepared it's so interesting. I love the power of storytelling, just in the threads, in all of these different stories. Like, storytelling can bridge so many divides, and even though the details are different, so many of the experiences, but especially the feelings, are the same. Like many of you, I've had to use that key between my fingers, you know? Sometimes it hasn't been enough, sometimes it has. But, you know, resilience is something people describe me as, resilient. Oh, you're so resilient. And I've always internally rejected that characterization. It wasn't until Googling what resilience means on my way here. And I thought, well, maybe I'm a little resilient. I grew up to a fairly good family. I'm privileged in that regard. And from a young age, I felt very different. I was gender non-conforming from the day I came out of the womb. And I was diagnosed gifted at quite a young age, which is quite a misnomer because it was not a gift. It just meant that my brain worked differently than my peers. And I was bullied, but that wasn't really the worst of it. The reason I thought I'm not resilient is because I have struggled my whole life with emotional regulation. I get overwhelmed so easily, and I have terrible time management skills, not unlike another speaker here. It wasn't until I think I was about 37 years old that I was diagnosed with ADHD, and everything made sense. But prior to that, around puberty, I started to use self-harm and substances as a way to cope with what felt to me like the pain of being human in a world that wasn't built for me. I was diagnosed with depression, which I'm not convinced I ever had depression, but I have struggled with suicidality for most of my adult life. Substances, although they were an attempt to solve the problem of pain, they became pathological in themselves. It was about age 17, probably out of an abundance of self-awareness, that I diagnosed myself as a person with a substance use problem. And thus began over 20 years of engagement with an unfortunately wildly insufficient mental health care system. I have been to treatment, I would say 6 times, my loved ones would probably say 8. And I didn't feel resilient. I didn't go back to treatment thinking, well, this time things are going to be different. In fact, by the time I had made even a second or a third attempt to get my life together, I had really internalized the social stigma associated with substance use, and it became personal shame. And my core belief is something is wrong with me, I am broken, and I don't belong here. And I tried very hard to make that a reality, but the universe just wasn't done with me yet. The last time that I went to treatment, it wasn't because I thought I'm worth it. It was because I was in an abusive relationship I needed to get out of. And I saw that as a way out. My message, though, was that even though it didn't feel different, I kept trying. I kept trying even though I didn't have hope. And I love that so many speakers touched on community and connection, because people spoon-fed me hope. I didn't have it for myself. I didn't think I was a life worth saving. And people believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. I was very fortunate in 2016 to participate. I was asked to be in a panel discussion to create a set of best practices for GPs to use when treating folks who have substance use issues. And it was in that workshop that I realized all of my personal struggles weren't just for me. All of my struggles are now my purpose. I realized I could hang in here with a room of doctors and folks from the ministry and mental health professionals, and I can hold my own. And I have a voice that I want to share with others. Whereas before I had so much shame about all of my struggles, about, this burden of potential that I was never able to really fulfill. Instead, I realized that everything I went through gave me such an ability to affect social change, to connect with people. I have empathy, I have compassion. I am today able to know what my values are and live in alignment with them. And that's recovery to me. And I also started to realize that part of my healing journey is owning my own story, not shying away. I was scared for so many years to tell you who I am, scared that you would see the truth, right? That I'm not good enough, that I don't deserve your love or your support or your connection. But I decided to go back to school. And to me, it's like, when I think of, confidence in action and resilience sort of in terms of career in the workplace, I just kept taking one small step. And the path has unfolded in front of me, right? So that speaking workshop was at Royal Rose. Through that, I got connected to someone who said, I want you to do my program and finish a degree with me. I decided, even though I was scared, even though every attempt at school in the past had resulted in relapse or suicide attempts or both, I decided to do it anyway. And for whatever reason, this time I had people who believed in my future, who understood my past. I was supported through schooling. I ended up finishing my undergrad, and within, I think, 3 months, I got a job at a nonprofit working as a substance use counselor. We're doing very low barrier counseling, and every day I wake up knowing I have the ability to make a difference in someone's life. If you can laugh, cry, and help someone in a day, it's been a good day, right? And it's not like bluebirds, get me out of bed in the morning. Like, life is still hard. And it's worth it. It's a good hard. I spent so many years fronting tough, and my 30s have really been about sinking into the emotional authenticity that I had not afforded myself for so long. I am so sensitive. I am soft. And that is a superpower. That heart-centered work. Is what leads me. Knowing that I am sensitive, that I do feel the pains of the world more deeply than some, but I know a lot of you can relate, and deciding to use that as motivation, to stand up here, to speak at any event that will have me. That's how I met Ashley, somehow got involved in People in Progress, don't even know how that happened, really. But it's sort of, I just kept saying yes to whatever opportunity was in front of me. This summer I got to speak in Port Alberni for International Overdose Awareness Day, and I've lost hundreds of friends to the toxic drug poisoning crisis, but I spoke alongside Sonia Firstenow and Gord Johns and a bunch of other MPs, and it enlivened me in a way that I thought, I don't know what is the best way for me to mobilize my energy to help other people. All I know is I want to be of service, whether that's one-on-one in the counseling office, whether that's in politics, whether that's speaking and advocating, whether that's stakeholder meetings. I don't know what the future brings, but I don't need to know. All I need to know is that if I live in alignment with my values, keep putting one step in front of the other, then the path will show itself to me, because I am here for a reason. And all of the struggle that we go through and all of the setbacks, that actually, I think, can be the greatest gift, because out of it comes meaning and purpose and a genuine desire today to be here on this planet. Other people, and I appreciate,
We heard